There we go. Yep.
There you go.
No, you want her up at the podium, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Stand by.
We can't get into the login.
Oh, you can? Let me see.
Thank you for your patience. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yep. There we go. And now we just have to put those on.
Which one?
Yep, one of those. Whichever. Yep, they said you could just click on it.
Try it now. Click on it. Press the button, one.
We just need to get the mic up there with you.
That didn't go.
No.
Let me just see.
It says chairperson. Oh, start initialization. Hold on.
Okay.
Ron said the password might be lowercase council.
No, I.
Testing.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Yes, it surely does. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our evening conversation. My name is Buan Guan. I am a member of the Racial Equity Commission here in Malden. For record, Kashona Harling is convening this meeting. Before we go ahead and get started, it's obvious that many of you are here because you believe wholeheartedly or want to make an impact with respect to diversity, equity, inclusion here in Malden. So in essence of time, I will go ahead and just turn it over to our mayor, Gary Christensen. Thank you.
Thank you, Born. Good evening, everyone. Again, I'm Gary Christensen, Mayor of the City of Malden, and I not only want to welcome you here this evening, but also say thank you for being here on such an important issue. And I want to let you know it's important not just in words, but in actions. In preparing for tonight, I believe that you'll be pleased to know that we are making progress. Now, we have more work to do, but again, progress is being made. Off to my left, to your right, we have a full-time Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Officer, Kashona Harling. I wish I could get that round of applause.
Enlisted with the Malden Rifles.
went overseas when they were federalized into the 26th Infantry Division. He served with Company L 101st Infantry. He was killed in action in a volunteer raid. He
Now,
volunteered
did
for
the
this
council
raid
do
against
this
the
on
Germans
purpose?
on May 31st, 1918 in Richecourt, France. William Harris, little monument at the corner of Pleasant and Highland.
consultant. So it's my honor to welcome her to start this discussion.
Good evening, good evening. I'm really not a fan of podiums, but I think for the Zoom folks, I have to stay in the mic. All right, that's all right. So I am going to help ground us, and I'm just gonna move to the side here. How's everybody doing? Thank you all for your patience as we get started. We're doing really important work, and my job is really to help ground this conversation so we can try to normalize trying to identify these challenges. I like to think of myself as a solution-oriented person. I am coming through with a particular framework and how I do this work. And also, I'm not here alone. I'm here with my team from HCH, so I just want to give them a shout out. I'll be joined by Nicole very soon. But you'll see here a framework for equity and inclusion. It's important to have a framework and an understanding of how we're coming into these conversations. And there's 3 levels in which we can enter this conversation. I think the level we just heard from comes from the systems level, where we think about organizationally our practices, our policies, structures, and things of that sort. Today, we're really going to ground the conversation at the level of self. And so you see the S cubed here. Here we go. S cube stands for self, spheres of influence, and this is actually better here. So systems, spheres of influence, and the self. So today we're grounding to the self, really trying to understand what is my role, how can I contribute, what's my ownership and my responsibility in this work, right? Because this work is too heavy of a burden to be on the shoulder of one person or one commission, right? So today we'll be grounded at the self level, and we'll also, I think if we can develop the selves, naturally tap into our spheres of influence, right? Whether that's personal or professionally. And there's one belief I want you all to hold with my framework here, and I believe it myself, right? Having this belief that every person and organization has the ability, the capability to change. We have to believe that. Otherwise, it's really difficult to carry this burden, right? So with that belief, we want to consider a few things. So I'm going to help frame us and ground us in this conversation because I don't want us to bring in our regular, everyday minds, okay? There's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot going on for people personally. And when you come into this space, what is the one thing we all hold as humans? Anybody want to take a try? What is one thing every human has? Bias. Exactly, right? And when it comes to bias, it's not a matter of if, but when. And so we want to really come in with a conscious thinking. And one thing we want to consider in having these conversations, we don't all know everything there is to know. Okay? There is no such thing as an expert. I stand up here with a expertise in this work, but I do not claim to be an expert. Nobody is an expert. So we can just let down our guards, right? We don't have to be so proper or be mindful of how we're showing up and what we're saying and how we're saying it. But there has to be a way we can create a space for some form of, I'll say safety, but you'll see soon enough why I don't like to lean too much on safety, because I cannot guarantee you safety in these conversations, but definitely bravery, courage. The other thing is to recognize that this is lifelong work, folks. This is not something you just come into work, take on the professional development training, and then leave it at the office. This is actually something we have to own personally. Just as difficult as conversations can be in the office, imagine at some dinner tables, right? How that can be. So we really have to develop our skills and make a commitment to do this work daily. And that looks like different things for different people. Know that I continue to do this as a facilitator myself, right? And I lead with cultural humility because I know I too can potentially cause harm unintentionally. And so we continuously have to do this work and know that there's no ending. We heard some great strides from the mayor that's been made, but as he named, that's progress and we want to continue moving forward. It's important to celebrate the wins because this is hard work, right? Some of undoing of many years of disparities and harm that's been going on. So we want to celebrate those wins, but know that there's no arrival point. There's a North Star, if you will, in our pursuit to inclusive excellence, but we'll never get to a place where we're going to say we're done. So sometimes it feels a little daunting, but it's good to live in that reality that this is be something that you do every day, just like you work out or try to eat well, take care of your mental health. This also becomes a part of that self-development. In this work, and I wanted to share these thoughts with folks because I knew that the community members that would show up, commissioners, y'all are deep into this work. You're committed, and there are things we have to consider in this work. When we talk about diversity in its definition, we're going to talk definitions in a few, but it's very broad, right? There's a breadth and a depth to that term, and so we have to know that we cannot distance ourselves from the issues. Something that may not impact you directly or is not salient to your own identity is not permission to distance yourself from an issue, right? So keep that in mind. In doing this work, we have to work to disrupt this process in our own spheres and move into this liberation mindset. So all of us have been socialized, right, in this American culture, society. We were born into families and into this world not by choice, right? But when you move into a liberated mindset, you're making conscious choices about the decisions you make, values you hold, beliefs that you keep, because they all shape your attitude, right? And your attitude influences how you engage with it and across difference. So you have to work to consciously disrupt things that may just be automatic, or that's just how it's always been, that's how my culture does things. We have to work to move into a conscious way of thinking. We do also want to center learning via a developmental process. What this means is that not only do we meet people where they are, but we allow people to develop at their own pace, right? And try to do that with compassion, because what may offer an aha moment or awaken you in a moment might just be the seed that is planted for somebody else for later on to be enlightened or awakened in whatever way that is. So keep that in mind, so that compassion when it's necessary, we're centering learning in this developmental process. And then we always want to maintaining that raised consciousness so that we can be seeking to develop new language, seeking to adopt tools and skills that are going to help us sharpen our ability to engage within and across difference, right? Just a few years ago when the pandemic broke and the racial reckoning, there was a term that came out that even I wasn't familiar with, and I'm in this work, and I heard BIPOC. And I'm thinking to myself, what is a BIPOC? I should know this. But that's okay. That's the cultural humility, and that's your continuous willingness to learn and be open to change as it comes. All right. So another piece about framing in having these conversations, especially in this space and future conversations that we'll have as we start really getting into the weeds. Today, we're trying to get y'all to help Kashana get more information to feed into her strategic plan. But as things get more vulnerable in the conversations, it's really important to recognize that we all come into this conversation with our lens, and our lens are used to interpret what's familiar and unfamiliar. Just by looking at me or looking at someone in the room, you don't know what they're carrying and the many selves that they're bringing into this space. So you have to be mindful that, again, in this cycle of socialization we've all been a part of, we bring with us our lived experiences, our family history. We bring with us our ideals, values, and beliefs, our societal influences and media, right, that we've been exposed to in our upbringing, our socio-historical context, and even our understanding of history, right? We know that some history is known, others have been hidden, others have been changed a little. All of your contextual understanding in that area also influences how you interpret what's familiar and unfamiliar to you. And then there's obviously so much more, right? So keep that in mind as we're sharing thoughts and opinions and experiences, so that when we have conversation, we can try to create a space for folks to be as authentic as possible, right? And so in doing so, again, in making sure that we're conscious about how we show up, I like to always bring shared agreements into the room. You might obviously familiar with shared agreements. You might have heard it before as ground rules or community norms. I purposely stay away from those terms because who's determining that it's the norm or that it's a ground rule, right? So a shared agreement is a set of agreements that we share in saying, I commit to showing up in this way for others to be able to be their authentic self, and hopefully you too can be as authentic as possible. Notice I did not say your whole self, right? Your whole self, especially in a place of work, being realistic and authentic is maybe not what you want, but your authenticity and creating a space of courage for folks to be able to be frank is important. So I have some shared agreements, and shared agreements can always be developed organically, even in meetings. Yeah, folks can go around the room and talk about what is it that you need to be your authentic self. We obviously don't have the time for that today, so I'm going to share some shared agreements with folks, and I'm going to ask for your feedback. Are we in agreement with these shared agreements? Is there anything missing that we want to call out and name in this space today? Okay, so the first one, take space, make space. This one is all about self-reflection and being honest with yourself. We are all introverts and extroverts depending on the environment we're in, right? If you feel and notice that you're taking a lot of space, make space for others. If you've noticed you haven't really spoken up, know that your thoughts and ideas are valued and necessary, and we want you to take some space and speak up. What is said here stays here, but what's learned here leaves here. Right? So this is an opportunity for us to develop trust and have some sense of confidentiality. But of course, the things that you learn here, we want you to take on and influence your own spheres. A brave space. So this goes to that safety component, right? I cannot guarantee you safety in these conversations. If you think about the lens that we just went and spoke about, it would not be authentic for me to say that. So instead, I want us to be able to create a brave space so we can be courageous because we are creating this space around these shared agreements. One mic, one speaker helps us keep a respectful conversation. Offer what you can and ask for what you need really centers that level of humility that we want to lead in these conversations. Expect and accept lack of closure. Not everything is going to be able to be closed with a pretty bow at the end of the conversations, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that we shy away from differences of opinions or potential conflict, right? Because sometimes we have to go through some darkness to get to the light, but know that the conversations will continue, and as long as we show up in these shared agreements, we should be able to work through. And how do we create bravery? Right? We can't come into a space and feel that we're going to be judged. So we've got to assume that the people who are here because they're willing and they want to learn, they want to help improve, do better themselves, and so on. So we want to assume good intentions. So if somebody says something that sounds wrong or maybe felt a particular way for you, with that assumption of good intentions, it allows us to dig in deeper to those conversations. We want to be specific, be thorough, and embrace a growth mindset, right? So that if I'm the one who makes a mistake or causes a harm, that I have this growth mindset and that ability to receive that feedback so that I can do better. keep calm and respect others. We want to seek to understand before being understood. That's another good one, right? It's really easy to hear people and just ready to respond, or making sure that your point is understood. But if we all seek to understand before being understood, we're able to get some deeper understandings. And then call in before the call out. One of my students actually named it this way, and I really liked it because there is maybe a point that a call out is necessary, but before we jump to a call out, let's call each other in so that we can create more space. So do not think outside of the box, folks. Think like there is no box. That's about limitless thinking, right? Limitless possibilities. We've got to really take advantage of having diverse perspectives and the opportunity to fill each other's gaps so that we can get to new solutions and more creative potentials in the challenges we face. Okay, so I went too far. Let me back up, if you can back it up for me one slide, and just hear from the audience and anyone online. Feel free to chime in on the chat. How do we feel about these shared agreements? Are we in agreement? Awesome, awesome. Anything that's not listed here that should be? Getting anything online? I'm not going to forget about my folks online. Thank y'all for joining us online. All right, so here's where we're going to already get y'all thinking and talking, okay? So we're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. I threw in the JAB, the JAB, because it does go beyond that. But the buzzword that we hear is even in some places being weaponized is diversity, equity, and inclusion. You've heard the term even being used here already. But what do we really mean when we say these terms? What are we really talking about, right? So we want to ground our understanding and definitions, and we want to have common language, because that's super important, right? Sometimes we're all going towards this North Star of inclusive excellence, but if we ground that, what are the steps that we're trying to take to get there? So what we're going to do is ask folks to turn to 2 or 3, if we can create groups of 3 or 4, just turn around and chat with each other. I want you to think about the term diversity in and of itself. Don't Google it, don't try to sound politically correct, just what's the initial definition, or what do you think of, or what do you think others tend to use that word as? And then I'll just ask for a few folks to share, what does diversity mean? So we'll start with diversity first, then we'll get to equity and then inclusion. All right, so I'm gonna give y'all a few minutes to define diversity. All right, just a quick note for folks online, if you can just please drop in the chat, how do you define diversity? And we'll do some readouts. grab a seat, join a group. We are discussing how do we define diversity. Welcome. All right, folks. I'm going to bring you back. I'm going to move us a little quickly because I really want to make sure we have enough time for the SWOT analysis we're going to do later, where we get to really pick your brains. So let me share a couple of remarks that have come in online. We've got different backgrounds, cultures, abilities, genders, and religions. When people of many ways of being coexist. How about in the room here? Anybody want to shout out a definition that was shared in your group? Yes. Rainforest represents diversity. Thank you. Yeah. Yes, thank you, thank you. How about one more? All right. Okay, so for diversity, what we tend to see typically, right? You'll see this on mission statements and official documents. The definition that I like to share is a compositional diversity refers not only to the numbers, but also to recognizing the richness of perspectives, experiences, and backgrounds within a community. Right? So a pet peeve for mine is when we talk about recruitment, we often hear the term diversity and recruitment, but what are we really looking for when you're saying diversity and recruitment, right? So really important to get some common definitions. While the numbers are obviously critical, we also need to think beyond the numbers. And then where's the level of cultural competency or cultural humility in anyone who's hired to serve, especially in a municipality. All right, so let's talk equity. Oh, giving away my... All right, talk about equity for a couple minutes. My picture might give it away already, but let's just go into the definitions, right? Because I've let the cat out the bag already. Often you hear equity used interchangeably with equality. And we know that those are two different things, right? All right, so equity and equality is two different things. Equity is about giving people what they need and striving for justice and fairness by acknowledging and rectifying past and present inequities. And some of these bold, swift actions that may take place may seem unfair at the surface, but when you're thinking about rectifying past and present inequities, you understand, the power of the image that's in front of you. Very, very important. We got to be equitable to get to equality. So let's talk inclusion, folks. Let's just take a couple of minutes, and if we can get folks online into small groups with a timer, are we able to do that? But folks in the room can certainly turn to your groups and start chatting. What is inclusion? When we say that, what are we saying? if we're not able to get folks in small groups, we really appreciate your comments coming in individually, and if you can drop in the chat, how do you define inclusion? You can't do it in a webinar format. They should have had just an open Zoom. Then we could have put them quickly. And then it would have a timer. It would have kept me on time. All right. Let me bring folks back. Online, we've got some comments. Inclusion, by example, is not only being invited to the dance, but being asked to dance. Anybody else talk about that? You did. I say true inclusion is letting me help you plan that party. Okay. All right, what else did we talk about as far as inclusion in this space? Right, so not just having a seat at the table, but having your input valued. Yes, giving it teeth, awesome. Anyone else want to share? Yes. Yes. And even on a personal level, being inviting or opening up a sense of welcomeness to be approached can reflect inclusion, absolutely. How's my? Help me out with my clicker. Here we go. So, because there's many definitions, a sense of belonging and the opportunity for equal and full participation for everyone, fostering an environment where every individual's uniqueness is valued. And I think belonging takes us a step further, right? So when we talk about this work, I bring in DEI is what you hear all over the place, right? But I bring in that jab. It's like that hook. That jab, no, okay, I'm not a boxer. But the first is justice, right? We talk about action, not just talking the talk, but walking the walk. So when you think about justice from an actionable perspective, there are a few definitions that I want to highlight. It involves not just theoretical principles, but proactive and tangible steps towards fairness. Justice advocates for policy changes and initiatives that promote equality and equity. And it necessitates ongoing education and awareness to address implicit bias. It's like, say that again for the people in the back. Right? It inspires collective is that key word, efforts to amplify marginalized voices and perspectives. Right? People are not a minority. We often use that word to describe people. People have been minoritized, right? Okay, so when we move to the next word, it's accessibility. This is another one that we know is there. It's like in the corner somewhere, needs to be centered. And when it comes to accessibility, there are, again, a number of ways to describe it. I'm going to highlight a few. It involves ensuring that all individuals, regardless of their background, abilities, or characteristics, have equal access to opportunities, resources, and experiences. It encourages the design and implementation of inclusive practices and accommodations to accommodate diverse needs. Necessitates ongoing evaluation and adjustment of structures to address evolving accessibility needs. And inspires a commitment to universal design principles, making space, information, and activities accessible to everyone, right? So it goes beyond the physical, what we can see when we talk about accessibility, and that ongoing commitment to assessing, evaluating, and improving accessibility for all. And that brings us to belonging, right? Folks can say I'm included in City Hall, I'm welcome in City Hall, but when I walk here, do I feel that I belong? That's another level of inclusion, right? So belonging goes beyond inclusion, representing a, a deepened sense of connection and acceptance within a community. And there's a psychological safety that comes with belonging as well that I think we have to be intentional about. All right, so we've gone through a number of definitions, right? So we want to get your good ideas. We want to get your assessment and feedback. So I want to help us clear our minds a little bit because we've talked a lot already and you've come in with your entire day that you've gone through today, right? It's hump day, right? So we're going to take a mindful moment. This is also a great practice just for daily mindfulness. All you're going to do is focus on your breathing. I'm going to ask you to take 4 deep breaths. And you're going to take 4 breaths in, 4 breaths out. And you're going to do 4 rounds of deep breathing, and then we'll come back into the space. Okay. All right, so I'm going to call folks back in with the sound of my voice. Okay, so I'm going to invite my partner in crime, Nicole, up to help walk us through the SWOT analysis. I'm going to be taking notes. We're going to have y'all continue working in groups.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So my name's Nicole Pagliatti. I'm a project manager. I work closely with Dr. Barros, and my background and really my passions include access to healthcare equity, housing, recovery services, and social services, and how do we get there. My background also includes operational excellence, process improvement. I have facilitated many SWOT analysis sessions with individuals, and this is where the magic happens, is on the ground in these rooms, in these meetings, and I I'm extremely impressed with the number of people that came out on a Wednesday night, took time out of their busy lives. You know, you're not with your kids tonight, you're here, which clearly shows that, you know, you want to make the city of Malden a better place for all. So thank you, especially, and the people online. I mean, 25 people online, that's amazing. Is everyone familiar with a SWOT analysis? Great, let's switch to the next slide. So we're gonna have you break off into maybe like 4 groups, the corner of each room, and just take 10 or 15 minutes, and we'd like you to list out some of the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that you see for the city of Malden. And really what this is gonna do is provide us with a framework to build out the strategic plan, and it's really important that we have the input from community members in order to do this, to ensure that we are moving in the right direction. I feel like I'm in and out on this thing. So some examples of strengths. What is the city of Malden currently doing well in this space? What makes you unique? I can tell you right now, like driving up here I live in Southern Rhode Island, it was a 2-hour drive today, and this is a beautiful city. Like I would really be proud to live here. It feels safe, it's clean. So I think you guys are ahead of the curve in many ways. And you know, what other strengths do you have? What do we have next? Weaknesses, where can we improve? Where do we want to put our focus on moving forward in the next 1 to 3 years? And then what are the external, maybe environmental factors that we don't have a lot of control over? But as far as opportunities, like what is currently happening? What is taking place maybe outside of Malden, you know, at a state or federal level? Like what programs are out there? Maybe funding opportunities, maybe other programs that you can take advantage of. What are the opportunities? There's a lot invested in this space right now, and you know, how can you grab hold of some of those things? And then the most difficult one is looking at the threats and the challenges. What are the main challenges that you feel you are facing right now? So if we want to take a few minutes to do that.
Well, first we're just going to start focusing on strengths.
Do you want to do it that way? Okay.
Yeah, and think about the strengths through the lens of DEI. Okay, so take a few minutes. You have some guided questions here that can help you in the conversation. We also have notepads if you want to take notes, but I promise you, we're going to ask you to report out and I'll capture the notes. Okay, but I'm going to bring
So give it maybe 2 or 3 minutes and focus on strengths.
and folks online can drop their ideas on
chat. We're going to give it another 2 minutes. Do you need like an upgraded version? That's what it is.
They would feel more engaged, but they're going along with it. They're giving us information. Just about another minute, y'all.
We'll give it 1 more minute. Dr. B, do you want to come back? All right, does everyone want to come back as a group? And we're going to, if you all want to designate one speaker for your group to go through what you came up with for strengths, that would be great. All groups.
city, and the city supports those things when they can. And that there's a lot of momentum and change coming, and not just in government, but within our city and the members of the city. And another big diversity is just the new people, the influx of people that are choosing to make Malden their home. And yeah, and just the general culture of openness that the city has.
Thank you. So as we make our way around, try not to, if something's been said, let's not repeat it, so anything new. You want to go next?
No, I know you did a great job, but it's hard to see it from back here, the color.
Oh, that's, I'll change the
I
color.
apologize.
Oh, no, thank you, I appreciate that.
It's a challenge for some of us.
No, yes, thank you. I was trying to change the color.
I'm being inclusive, all of us.
Accessibility, right? All right.
Thank you.
Do you want to share? I'll fix that. Do you want to share next?
City is unique compared to other cities. Malden has a diversity among students in the languages, which came from an educator within the Malden school system. And then another point, has seen the city evolve over time. When she was growing up in her teen years, she didn't see much diversity growing up, and has seen it evolve over time to now where she sees people who look like her, whether it be in restaurants, neighborhoods, and just all different type of ethnicities here in the city. The town has become very inclusive. Another point, also when driving past the high school, she was able to see a rainbow, and that was something that she could see growing up, and you shared visibility, right? And then lastly, willingness to try new things and to try under diversity. You shared being a multicultural resident here in Malden, and just seeing how much the willingness to try new things has been really embraced in the city. Right?
Amazing.
Okay.
I'm just gonna read a couple strengths that typed into the chat. Diversity of our residents. We are the most diverse city in all of Massachusetts, and that's a beautiful thing. Thank you, Timor.
We've got that. Strong diversity.
Can I also say, she also said diversity of business owners.
Thank you.
It was her own point, so she got to say it.
Awesome.
Who's next?
Y'all want to go next right here? I saw you, yeah.
Yeah, we coincided on some of the strengths, and one other one that was mentioned is that there's a diversity in leadership. So, city government, as well as, for example, the library, and messages that the library is constantly sending out into the community. I work for a bunch of different volunteer nonprofit groups, and there's pretty much a coincidence between leadership in general with that diversity message. And I think that's very positive.
Awesome, awesome, thank you. Shall we come here?
Yeah, like others, we kind of share similar, but I would say the sharing of cultural experiences, the climate action process, the accessibility of our mayor. You know, he has the Instagram, and I think no, it's a cool thing because I think it speaks to, you know, a leader in our community being vulnerable and being connected. And I think, you know, when we think about leadership, it's always one way, as opposed to, okay, let's try different methods of like connecting with people in the community. And I think that's a plus.
Call that servant leadership.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you. We've got our group in the back. makes me think of public safety. Anything we can say about public safety in the city?
Generally positive. People feel safe. Families move here because they feel safe.
Vaughn, you wanted to say Ed?
It just slipped my mind, but I'll come back to
I'm
it.
sorry. Yes.
I think we have a police chief who's interested in change, and his values align with a lot of what we're talking about tonight.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, we weren't from Malden and we felt welcome, and I think the other thing is Malden's traditionally been a community of immigrants. I mean, immigrants today are different than the ones 100 years ago. The people who were the established people have some perspective. They at one time were immigrants, so there's a welcome. This is not 100%, but I think the reason why we're a diverse community as we are because people have felt welcome and have felt supported from coming from places. So there's almost that tradition that it's a tradition of being welcoming and welcome differences. I think it's those differences change every generation, but I don't think we'd be the community we are without that tradition. We haven't been an exclusive. We've been an inclusive community all along.
I was going to add too, with respect to the many support services, one of the things I think about too is not only did I find community when I first, moved to Malden 10 years ago, but social media has played a big part in terms of watching many residents in Malden connect. One of the things I was thinking about is the Malden Neighbors Helping Neighbors. And, basically it was a group of people that, I don't know who started the group, but it made it possible for people to try to support others that are in need. And I think it speaks to community. Oh. But it really several other people. But it's a beautiful
great.
thing because it really shows the heart of people in Malden and the great work that's being done. Like if someone's in need of supplies or something for their kids or whatever, there's always people in the comments. How can I help? I'll DM you a message and people help.
So there's strength
That's
in
awesome.
communication through social media.
Right, right. It's powerful.
And then can I just add, what makes that unique too, it didn't emanate from the government. Usually it's the government setting this stuff up. This emanated from the community. Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, again, I'll speak, the people that organized with me, I had never met before. Literally, we all had kind of the same idea at the same time, and were connected.
Yeah.
That's how we created initial records.
Powerful.
I think there's a large density of good intentions in this city.
Yes. So it's so important to highlight and be aware of our strengths so that we know where we can play on those strengths, right? It's also important to think about I like to say, challenge points, right? So it's like putting that mirror up to ourselves and being honest. Let's talk about where those challenges lie, okay? In the city of Malden, when we're thinking about it from a DEI lens, what are our weaknesses or challenge points? And you've got some guided questions, again, if you need.
I'm talking to them. Yeah. We're moving on to weaknesses. We'll give it a couple more minutes. Are we ready to start talking about weaknesses? They're very engaged.
What time is it? Okay, yeah, let's get them moving. Let's start with the online.
So from Karen. All right, we're going to start, for the sake of time, we're going to start with the online. We have a response from Karen. We need to build on work that has already been done to gain trust from the community that we are listening and continuing to move forward together. Many have done great work with community and unity and Malden core in the city. I'm so glad this is happening, but we have to acknowledge work of the past. 100%.
Yeah, we have a lot, and folks. We'll collect y'all notepads after. So, my group, we talked about a few things. Lack of diverse teachers in the schools, that the students feel like they saw themselves
We're represented.
in the schools. And similarly, the lack of representation or little representation of city government in terms of diversity in leadership. Relying on grant funding, that was one. Having the ability to have deeper conversations as it relates to structural racism, like how do we empower people to become practitioners of change? How do we activate people in the community to really think, not only think about this work, but really challenge structures that create these barriers for various groups and communities. And housing challenges, affordability. Malden's a beautiful city, and yet, many people are faced with the challenge of trying to remain in their homes because the costs are high. And how do we address that in Malden? And then never having the resources to do everything that the city wants to do.
Sure.
Although the passion is there,
Yeah.
it's just lack of not having enough resources for that. And that was our group.
Thank you. This is a hot one because we've had a few more come in online. Weaknesses, lack of affordable housing, employment opportunities for our youth, lack of educators of color in MPS, Another weakness, infrastructure of our city. We need to be way more open and intentional on what will actually work rather than making decisions we feel like we should do or that are trendy, popular, et cetera. Another one, our teachers, local government, and workers do not reflect the diversity of our city. Thank you, online. Who wants to go next?
There's a couple of things that, I'm on the school committee and we do a really good job of providing translation for people coming in over Zoom. But, for people that might want to walk in and be here present. And also, we don't do that at all at city council. If someone can't understand what's being talked about, then they're going to feel automatically disconnected from government.
We'll give it another minute or two. All right, everyone. Let's see, do we have anything online? No. Okay.
Trying our best to keep y'all on time.
Yes. I see the passion in the audience. I love it. Who would like to go first? Opportunities.
Let's start with our group back there.
Way in the back. Do you guys want to go first? Yes, thank you.
I'm the language access coordinator for the city. And I am so happy that you guys are complaining and bringing out language access. I cherish when you find spaces where we need work. Those are my opportunities. So put them all in there because eventually we'll get there. Now, with those opportunities,
You're saying to raise more awareness?
To take up on trends that, and acts that are in progress. Like the Crown Act was going around, it was so small when it started. It was so small. And now there's a lot of states that have signed on. I'm very happy that Massachusetts has signed on. And again, it started in Malden, but now it won't affect any Malden child again.
Taking it worldwide.
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you, thank you. Did I capture everything for y'all? Just, okay, great, let's come here.
Yeah, so one thing we noticed was like looking at the strengths and looking at the weaknesses. There were some where they one really fed into the other. So they said that we need more diversity of teachers in local public schools. We need more diversity in leadership in the government, and we have a very diverse population in Malden. So pulling on like the diverse population of Malden to become those teachers and those leaders. Someone mentioned about like programs to, you know, if there's a gap in people's readiness to be in these roles, like programs to educate, elevate, and give opportunities to people to like gain the experience or the qualifications to do these things. Pay teachers more. Or get creative with programs that like hire new teachers and support them, or pay them like while they're working to get degrees. And then the other point I was talking about, in order to figure out how to reach diverse populations, is visit mosques, churches, temples, community centers, or communicate with the leaders at those places to ask to disseminate information and communicate with folks in those communities.
Thank you.
Sometimes you don't get the right reach the people you need to reach, so being more creative and going out and doing outreach to the places where they go.
Awesome, thank you.
So we talked about, similar themes and what's listed there, but like a TEDx Malden that creates an opportunity for members in the community to talk about, DEIB, JAB related topics. And I think it falls into the bucket of learning and development. If there's an opportunity where members of the Malden community can, whether it's on the City of Malden website, but various topics that people can learn about, that it becomes like a library of knowledge and training that's available. If it's through LinkedIn Learning with a partnership with the city, that's one. If not, then that there are people who can develop these content from intersectionality, the power of inclusive language, religious diversity, and more. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I had two more things to that. I'm a city councilor, and I take the point really seriously about how hard it is to figure out Robert's rules and like what's happening at city council meetings and planning board meetings and all these really important decisions. And I think we do a lot of inclusive planning processes, but the city might do 10 different inclusive planning processes in a year. And so what would it look like if we reimagined all of that together as one unified public input process that was in plain language, and we could really get the word out, and we all designed it around what would be easy for residents to tell us what they think. It would be driving it from a totally different perspective. So that's one imagination I have. And another is that we're starting this master planning process with the city, and Malden has, not tried to accelerate development for some time. But would that create an opportunity where we can have development without displacement and gentrification? This has been very difficult for many communities and cities to do, but I think some of the ingredients are here in Malden to be able to do that and empower our businesses. So could we be a model for development without displacement in this next chapter of our city?
It's much more efficient, too. Thank you. This group over here?
So if a lot of those
Thank you. We have a few online. Let's see. There could probably be more initiative from local government to solicit feedback, conduct outreach from community members on areas they think could be improved, around resources to improve equity, particularly from residents whose first language isn't English, excuse me. Secondly, we need to be a no place for hate community, and this needs to include training and programs for all. The school community and Malden community has not been safe spaces for our Jewish families. How can we be protected from hate speech and acts in our community in partnership with the future of all DEI initiatives? Another opportunity listed, energy around modernization of downtown, a strong demand to live and work in Malden, actively work to dismantle racism. Do we, I was thinking this one from Paul. Do we have any sort of grow your own teacher initiative here in Malden or nearby cities to support building a representative teaching workforce? Did anyone not go? Yes.
Just a couple things. One, you know, with the transit community stuff that's going on right now, we have a fantastic opportunity to go and look at our zoning, make sure that we're going and putting affordable housing and making those real changes for the people. Again, people complain about the cost of housing. We have the ability to go and do things like going and build
process to activate those people who might want to gain a living teaching and start a business, another business, or another nonprofit, or whatever.
Sure.
So those are 3 energy sources.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right.
All right. That brings us to threats. The threats that we want y'all to think about are really external threats, right? So we talked about our challenges, our strengths, the opportunities, but there are things that are outside of our control, whether they're within the city or they're regional, they're statewide or national. So when we think about our effort towards this pursuit for inclusive excellence, equity, what are those threats we have to be mindful of as we're thinking about our strategic plan? And there are some guided questions here as well. We'll have a shortened time to get your feedback.
5 minutes.
right, we're gonna bring folks back in.
Who would like to go first? How about this group? Want to go first? Hey guys, we're going to bring it back to the larger group. Thank you.
Talk about political polarization as a threat to make progress. Things like world issues that are going on that threaten our sense of unity, that make it difficult for people to see past, issues that are very central to them. Also backlash to things like DEI or supposed critical race theory being taught in schools, like any sort of backlash against sort of diversity initiatives in schools, and outside of schools, as well as extreme weather, like these things just, make everything harder. So sort of that intersection of climate change, economic problems and housing struggle, like it out in Malden, outside of Malden, it just seems to be getting harder and harder. Cost of living, and strain on resources, lack of resources to address needs of new immigrants, and everyone. So yeah, just a lot of limiting factors like that.
Thank you. Go ahead.
We brought up a lack of funding and access to funding. We talked about the lack of a diverse, unbiased local journalism and having more diverse voices that are covering things like this so that people can have more access. And understand that at least it's happening. I think a lot of times things happen in the city, and again, I know people are advertising on Facebook and putting it here and there, but again, we're not reaching, and so I think that feeds that hate that people are talking about. And we talked a lot about that as well, just the hate rhetoric that's going on, a lot of the people that want us to go back in time and that kind of stuff. We also, fear of change and just people that are really, they feel like they're not being met where they're at because of all the changes. And we talked about our immigrant communities and just, like the lack, they're here to survive, right? And so getting them to participate is asking a lot because they don't have the bandwidth. They want to do 2 or 3 jobs. So how do we, how do we solve that problem? How do we figure out how to reach people where they're at?
Yep. Thank you. Back there?
Mine, I think a lot of this was covered already. Change at the federal level. Right now, we see a lot of political divisiveness. We're seeing things at the top not going necessarily home. There's an unwillingness to go and work with one another, and unfortunately, that trickles down all the way down to the city level.
Right.
I think the weaponization of misinformation is really a threat that we face on a national level, but a local level too.
Thank you. We have one from online, MATV, is that Malden TV? Okay. Malden TV could provide programming that's more culturally representative of Malden residents. Does the group back here want to go?
Some older people don't like changes, they like to keep things the same, perhaps not wanting to relinquish their power, money and budgeting, seeing initiatives such as sustainability going away. One of the solutions to that, we talked about the people's budget, kind of like a participatory budget where it allows maybe the town, the city to be more collaborative when it comes to, where the budget may go for different pockets or whatever initiatives.
Yep.
Malden.
Participatory budgeting. Get that one?
Malden sensitivity to cost of houses.
Just, I mean, when we're thinking about what's happening outside of Malden that impacts us and where we want to be and where we want to go, I always think of Malden as being, because we are on the T, we're super sensitive to not just like, the Malden housing market is not a bubble, right? So as other parts of the city become expensive, whether it's Somerville or Cambridge or Boston, people are looking, I still need to get to work. So I still have to live on the T, where's affordable now, right? And so I always think of Malden's housing market as being really tied to the cost of living in cities all around us, right? Because we are so connected. So that's just like an outside factor, right, that impacts us.
Yeah. Just going off of the weaponization or misinformation, just to point out that communities, like immigrant communities, communities where English isn't the first language, are more susceptible or more vulnerable to that misinformation and spreading of misinformation because they're not used to, they're not as familiar with the systems of communication in the U.S., like what news sources to trust, etc. And if they can't read the mainstream news, they can be more vulnerable to WhatsApp messages being sent around, etc. So it just makes the outreach that much more important to build trust with people in those communities and make things available in different languages.
Yeah.
So, like others, you talked about, money, budget cuts, cultural backlash of some groups, climate disasters / environmental racism. Others mentioned like global issues and also social media as well. I think even for myself, thinking about this event and how it was, advertised, really was brought out some of the ugliest parts of people in the world. And I think there's so much fuel like hatred.
Yep.
And just not only hatred in this work, but just hatred of people. I think as we continue to think about, doing this work, that's what we're up against. So, and that also poses a threat to just well-being of people that are actually grounded in this work. So.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
I think we're doing a lot of, I'll say the phrase turnover. We're doing a lot of really interesting, really impactful things, both in the government and also within the community. And as we see people turn over, whether
it can be a beautiful thing when you capture that and see that, and whether, you know, it evolves into some sort of initiative or project where students, people in the community kind of do some sort of art type of work that captures, this is where we started, this is where we are, 20, 30 years later. Like, you have that trajectory of just keep climbing up, and whether you're providing opportunities for learning and engagement, community building, etc.
This is more of an internal tendency, a scarcity mentality. So I work for a nonprofit. Most nonprofits I know are always talking, we don't have enough people, we don't have enough time, we don't have enough resources, we don't have enough space. I hear that from the city as well. Budget, we don't have enough money. But instead of thinking that way, go to the wild imagination, find the people who can find those resources. There's always a way. There's a new way to raise money for schools. There's a new way, you know.
Get out of the silos too, right?
And I was just going to say that even though this is a nice conversation, but then we go back to our respective organizations, we don't have the pathways of connection and sharing ideas, drawing from, let's say, the entrepreneurs to help with the wild, you know, finding the money. So, you know, you stick within your content group and you won't find the answers there. So I think having a pathway to having constant conversation and feedback loop about what's working, how can we move forward, and drawing from the diverse expertise to solve these problems on an ongoing basis.
Thank you. We have one more comment. I had seen your hand.
Yeah, it's kind of, I guess, kind of a threat and an opportunity, but I think there's a lot of cumulative harm that's being held in a lot of spaces in Malden from various, you know, instances of racism, discrimination, bias, and I feel like we need some type of remediation process, or like a restorative justice process for when communities, or when instances occur where we can do a little bit of healing work and talking to each other and not at or over each other. I feel it's happening online, on social media, it's happening in person, at events and meetings, with things that are politically or racially charged, and we need some type of a healing process.
There's no human rights commission here?
Thank you. And I saw two more hands pop up, and then we're going to wrap it up. You had a hand.
I just was kind of piggybacking off the not recreating the wheel kind of thing, right? What was it, 10 years ago or 12 years ago, before Malden, of course, started, I can't remember what it was, Susie, do you remember what it was called? The community unity thing. The community unity thing. And that to me seemed like it was much more centered specifically on race, and I think that like the idea then was kind of more focused on that, and I feel like we've expanded it to be more like, again, even the diversity of diversity, right?
Intersectionality.
Intersectionality, and not just that, but like again, thinking about what it is to feel other. And so I do think that like that's what we need to be centering, like, and again, it's not to say that there's not anti-blackness or anti-Asian hate or LGBTQ or, you know, homophobia going on, but that we need to always kind of keep focused on right now, this is where we're at, and also know that we're building on the future to what lies ahead.
Thank you. Was there a last comment?
I was just going to say fatigue, honestly, is a word that we should think about, especially when, you know, when we talk about all these factors, like Juan talked about the well-being of people doing this work, the vulnerability of the mayor consistently being vulnerable, keep pushing back on CRT narratives at doors, and why we need to like not get tired when doing this work, and remember that even when we're building systems, that it's purposeful. So watch out for fatigue.
I want to name that race is the most deep and pervasive type of oppression that exists in our country. So that's always going to be centered, and it's important to keep that intersectionality as part of our lens in doing this work and having these conversations. Right? So you all have done an amazing job getting a lot of information out. This is just the beginning. This is the first of many other conversations. There's going to be obviously a deep look and assessment and understanding of how do we expand from the great work that y'all helped us identify today. I'm going to say thank you for your participation, especially for those who have stuck with us online. And I'm going to pass the floor back to Kashana. We'll get the notepad for you.
So we would love to have all of the writing, so please make sure that as well.
You want to use the mic?
Okay, so first, thank you so much for participating. This went amazing. I'm like super excited about the info that everyone has shared, and I think it'll be really good to take this back and really process and see all of the good work that we have to start doing, or continuing, I should say. So what have we learned? We definitely got a lot of information about the city, what we need to work on, what's good about what we're doing, and what we need to continue. What will we do with this information? We're going to take it, and we have the racial equity audit team here that they're going to help us kind of process the information and see, what to do with it and how we can work on those things. One thing that's super important is that we will be having the next public meeting, which will be Wednesday, March 6th, from 6 to 8 p.m. So that gives us some time to kind of process this information and then come to you with next steps of, our plan and what we're going to be doing to kind of work on all these things. So it'd be wonderful if you could attend that as well. And then there's the feedback form. So we'll leave the screen up. So if you want to scan or check out the link there and just give us your feedback on, how you thought this went, just generally about the meeting. And then if there are any comments or thoughts that you have to kind of add on to our discussion tonight or anything that you forgot to mention or whatever, please click on that and add those comments there as well. All right, and so that concludes our...
Just very quickly, I wanted to, is it possible to just ask the members of the Racial Equity Commission to just
Oh, yes, so sorry. Forgot about the
say hello?
Yes. So the Racial Equity Commission, members want to come on up and...
Just at least stand with Cassandra Davis and Nate Bay-Cupel and Buan Guan, and I'm Counselor Carrie McDonald, and we've got Ralph Long, I think we got Cassandra Davis, and of course, Kashana. Is that all of us? We do have some youth members also. We have a couple members who are on hiatus, but thank you to those who are here. And I also wanted to say, for the folks in the room, there was an air quality, also community meeting happening across the way. They have a lot of leftover Thai food, and they would like for you to come eat that if you could, and also take their survey on air quality as a consideration in environmental racism. So, thank you.
So I also have my contact info, which will be on the next screen. And for language access, there will also be the contact information as well that'll be up in a second. But yeah, I think we can leave that there. Well, we'll wait just so they can do the feedback form. I can turn this off.